All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. You are listening live on the Sircles app. I am Danny Hinkle, co-founder of Sircles, here with my co-founder Todd Fiore and my great friend Andrew Savine, who's been with us on the last couple shows. Sircles is a community-funded, community-owned tech startup built to be a positive global platform for sharing, conversation, and good vibes. It's also a high-risk, high-reward investment opportunity, and we genuinely appreciate everyone who supports what we're building. Before we get started, I do need to read this verbatim. This Reg CF offering is made available through Start Engine Primary LLC, member FINRA/SIPC. This investment is speculative, illiquid, and involves a high degree of risk, including the possible loss of your entire investment. All right, now let's talk football. Last week, you mentioned Matthew Stafford as a first ballot Hall of Famer, Andrew. I agreed he's a Hall of Famer, but something about first ballot just felt weird in my mind, I think, because you've got humans voting and anything can happen. Only a few guys get in every year. I think it's 5. Then we get the news of Bill Belichick not going first ballot. What do you make of that?
First of all, from the Matthew Stafford standpoint, I don't think the fact that he lost last week affects my prediction in any sort of negative way. I do believe he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think that the Bill Belichick situation is just very political and personal, and maybe a few things that us from the outside do not understand.
Yeah, I've never seen anything quite like it. It makes you wonder, is Andy Reid going first ballot Hall of Famer, or is there going to be this weird political game played now where another head coach can't go first ballot?
It would be unfortunate if that game gets played, because just like I would have said 2 weeks ago that Belichick obviously should be first ballot, I feel the same way about Andy Reid.
Agreed. I saw Gronkowski say it the other day, something about Andy Reid can't go first ballot now, and I'm like, dude, you shouldn't be saying that. They should not play that game. Don't lead him into it. I love Gronk, but little outside of his lane right there. So last week we had the Broncos and Patriots 10-7, crazy snow game. We had a few props in that one. I think we had RJ Harvey over his yardage total. Your pick of the week really was Broncos plus 3.5. You said you were going to listen to the odds makers last week, and you did. It's always tough listening to the odds makers when you're really leaning towards the other side, but math is math, and Vegas wasn't built by not listening to the math on this. So great pick on that. I don't think we had any major losers in that game. We had Matt Hall over his total and Goody under his total, so pretty good game there.
Yeah, I think that in that Broncos game, I did have a couple speculative picks, long shot, partial unit type plays on Adam Troutman. Those did not come through, but yeah, my favorite pick was the Broncos, and I think actually the number I had it at that I gave out on the show, Danny, was 4.5. But regardless, it cashed at 3.5 and at 4.5. I do think that game in the first half went very much the way I thought it might. And I think that first half showed that my contention that the difference between Bo Nix and Stidham is not 7 points was validated. And then when you go to the second half, I just think that the unexpected and extreme nature of that storm really blew the whole script up. And the Broncos could have easily walked out of there with a win. The field goal situation was crazy. The Broncos had 2 shorties that they missed. And, so I'm okay with the fact that, I had a little sprinkle on Troutman. I'm okay with the fact that I had a little sprinkle on the money line and the Broncos make it to the Super Bowl. I think that those things were not outside the realm of value.
Yeah, one of those kicks was actually blocked too at the line. But you're right, you did have it at 4.5. That 3.5 was sticking in my mind because, as many of you know, Robinhood opened up their sports betting markets, and they only let you take lines at 3.5 and 6.5. So 4.5 wasn't really an option for me in that game. I ended up having it had it at 3.5 and had to sweat it a little bit more. But great pick there. The Seahawks-Rams game, I did something I don't usually. I like to watch games from the home, but I went out to a public restaurant and bar and got distracted by some people around me, ran into an old friend, and was talking to me the entire first quarter. So I felt like I didn't get the full Rams-Seahawks experience that I wanted, but it was a great game. We hit part of an escalator bet there as well. We had Kyron Williams going as high as 30 yards. I think he had 2 catches on 22 yards. And there were a couple other picks in that game as well. How'd you feel about the Seahawks-Rams performance last week?
Yeah, so starting off with the Kyron Williams bet, when I give out an escalator like that, the idea is that the base bet, the one that's like closer to even money, whether it's minus 110 or minus 115 out in the market, that's where the majority of the money is going to go on the escalator. So like I do like chalk that escalator up as a win, even though we didn't get all the way to the top floor as one would like to. I think that the game, I was obviously a Rams backer. I had that Broncos Rams futures bet that now looks kind of silly on paper, but the reality of both the games was that there were points in the game when the Broncos were the favorite to win the game, and there were a lot of points that the Rams were the favorite to win the game. And I think that the result was a microcosm of their entire year, which is they have struggled with special teams throughout the entirety of the year, to the point where McVay did something that almost no head coach does. And he fired on a winning team. He fired his special teams coordinator, partway through the season. Unfortunately, the special teams coordinator does not actually get on the field and field the punts. And that muffed punt was, to me, that was the game right there.
That was the game, and they still made a run at it at the end. If the Rams score on that final drive, they win the game, and it got pretty close. They were in the red zone. I knew they would keep it close, and they were able to. Stafford is going to come back for another season. I'm really excited to hear that. I think he's got one more run in him, especially with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So it's going to be excited to see what they can do next year.
Yep, I see myself liking them again next year. But the division stuff, I mean, if the Niners get any modicum of healthiness in their roster, there's really a 3-headed monster in that division, obviously.
Very true. All right, let's get into Super Bowl 60. We've got the Patriots and the Seahawks. The Seahawks are 16-3. The Patriots are 17-3. The Patriots are 9-0 on the road this year. This line is sitting at 4.5. Andrew, I know you usually zig when the public zags. Set the table for us here on the spread and total. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm zigging while they're zagging for sure. I think that the number opened up very, very early on, like in the hours following the conclusion of the conference championship games at 3.5, and it got bet up to 5.5, and now it has settled in that 5 to 4.5 range, as you said. I think that that's normal line movement for a Super Bowl, because the hold, meaning the amount of money coming into the different books, is so much greater on the Super Bowl than any other sporting event throughout the entirety of the year, that the odds move a little more aggressively. It does look like it's settled in at 4.5 and 5. I don't consider there to be a big difference between 4.5 and 5, just regardless of which side you like. I think that obviously, if you're listening to this, you know that 3 is the key number. I would consider 4 a secondary key number, but 4.5 and 5 are essentially the same number. That being said, I did get a little money on the Patriots +5. And that is not my strongest bet of the week, though, Danny. I'm zagging while people are zigging, as you said, with that bet. But that is not my A+ play. My A+ play is really the under in this game, which right now I see out there still at 45. You can get some 45.5 still. The 45.5 is great to get if you are going the under. If you disagree with me and want the over, then shop for the 45s. But coaching and defensive matchup wise, I see this being a grinded out game. How do you feel about those leans, Danny?
I love the under, actually, and I love betting overs, but I do see this being a grinded out game. I think we might see a few punts actually to start the game, unless we have some crazy special teams return for a touchdown. In fact, Rashid Shaheed to score is one of the props I like here, just because he's one of those guys who can break free as a receiver, or he can take a punt or a kick to the house. But I think if that doesn't happen, if there's no short fields given up by turnovers or crazy kick returns or something, I actually do like under 45.5. And then when it comes to the side, I have a rule now with the Super Bowl. I actually don't like betting the Super Bowl as much as I love sports betting. I hate picking a side in this game. It's just so commercialized. There's 2 weeks after the conference championship ends, and I think that the odds makers just set the line perfectly every single time. But my rule is, if I love a side, like I really can't see one side losing, and in this case, I have a really hard time seeing the Seahawks lose this game. Their defense is just incredible. They put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. The Patriots have been having a tough time protecting Drake May. They're really going to need Ramondre Stevenson to step up as the pass blocker in the backfield. He's great at it, but I just see them applying a ton of pressure, and I struggle to see the Patriots winning this game, which means I want to go with the Patriots, because when I love a side, it always goes the other way. The public loves the Seahawks too. Everybody I talk to says Seahawks, 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 and that's kind of my indicator to go the other way. It has held consistent for years and years, and I oftentimes don't listen to my instinct, and I'll take the side I love anyways. But this year, I'm just going to take the points. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to put a huge amount of money on it. I actually prefer to take some long shots when it comes to the Super Bowl, and just make it fun. Like last year, we had Jalen Hurts to score the first touchdown, and he scored the first touchdown, and there was nothing we could do to lose the rest of the game. It felt pretty good. So,
yeah, that was sweet.
That's what I like to do when it comes to the Super Bowl. It's a fun game. I like to enjoy company. I like to play squares. In fact, we just closed up a Sircles Squares competition at $25 a square, so that'll be fun as well. Now, I do love getting in on some props. What is your prop strategy here? I know you're going to steal my guy Matt Collins this week, but walk me through the quarterback props first.
Yeah, so I agree with you that Seattle's going to get pressure and give Drake May a hard time, but like I feel like in your analysis you conveniently left out that Sam Darnold is going to be under a lot of pressure, and their interior pressure specifically is elite. And when Sam Darnold faces that kind of pressure, he historically has been a little bit of a pick machine. And I know that one of my big losing straight bets from the show for the conference championships was Sam Darnold to throw an interception. But as they say, Danny, I ain't scared. So I'm going back to Sam Darnold throwing an interception. Now you can get that out in the straight bet market at -130, which is pretty juicy. And then just as a reminder, because I know there's a lot of very casual bettors at home. So when I say -130, that means you have to put up $130 to win 100. So you're risking more than you get back. So that being said, to me, value-wise, there's a big difference between, say, -130 and -150, and I have seen it up that high. There are an infinite number of places to make these bets. So if you choose to follow along, try to find the number that is closest to -130.
Or you could grab the Patriots +4.5 and the Darnold pick and probably get plus money on it.
Yeah, tying them together for some odds on your money is definitely a fun thing. And I do agree with you, Danny. Like, making your Super Bowl bets fun is important. I mean, that's what the day, it's a national holiday, basically. You're supposed to have fun. So I don't have any objection to you doing something like that. There are a couple other things with Sam Darnold, though, that I would just like to pontificate about for a second. And that is, one of the highest bet markets in sports betting these days revolves around touchdowns. So for the quarterbacks, it revolves around touchdown passes. Now, the average line for a quarterback to go over under on touchdown passes is 1.5. So if you bet the over, if he throws 2 touchdowns or more, you win. If he throws 1 or 0 touchdowns, you lose. Just as a reference point, out of the 19 games, the 17 regular season games plus the 2 playoff games, Darnold has thrown only 1 or 0 touchdown passes in 10 games. Now, it sounds kind of shocking when I say it because we're all thinking about the 3 that he threw last week. But that recency bias, I believe, is something you need to stray away from in this spot. And I think that the over 1.5 touchdown passes is a poor way to go about it. If you're more of a sicko like me and you don't mind sweating an under, I think under 1.5 touchdown passes is a valid way. Now, if you disagree with my take on the game and you visualize Sam Darnold like doing very well in this game, there is one other way you can approach it, and you can go into an alternate market and get Sam Darnold to throw 3 or more touchdown passes like he did last week, and you can get that at plus 270. So those are just a few pathways for you guys at home if you want this type of action. These are not official picks. These are just me giving you what I think is worth knowing.
How much do you think Zach Charbonnet being out last week affected that passing touchdown number? He normally gets a lot of carries in the red zone. Without him as a weapon, I mean, you've still got Kenneth Walker, who's been amazing, but do you think it puts Darnold into passing situations more not having Charbonnet back there?
Big time, Danny. And I think that because Kenneth Walker has a very high skill set as a receiving back out of the backfield as well. So, those short little passes dumping off to a running back a la Kyron Williams or a la Kenneth Walker, those type of touchdown passes are certainly something that could blow my under 1.5 up for sure. However, and I think I'm stealing a little bit from you from our previous show here, Danny, there is a way in which I think Seattle could score a rushing touchdown, and it's not coming from a running back. As we spoke about last week, the Seahawks use A.J. Barner, their tight end, to do their version of the tush push. So I do like A.J. Barner for a touchdown this week. He's caught a few. He's rushed a few. I think with their limitations at the running back position, that style of play, we will see. So, whether it's successful or not is anyone's guess. But I do think we'll see that style of play a couple times, maybe on some 4th down conversions, and maybe hopefully for my action at the goal line. But for an A.J. Barner touchdown, you get plus 230.
Plus 230 is pretty good. You're going to take him for 2 TDs too, a little sprinkle?
Yeah. Well, this is a very speculative type of escalator. So if you like A.J. Barner and you like the idea of him getting in the end zone, there is certainly a game script where he might catch one in a standard tight end passing play, and he might tush push one. Now, if he gets 2 touchdowns, which I do have a sprinkle on, I get 13.5 to 1 on that. But Danny, if the guy has 2 touchdowns and Sam Darnold only threw 1, and they win the game,
MVP.
Now we're talking about a market where you can get a lot of bang for your buck. A.J. Barner to win MVP is 120 to 1. So that is one of those plays, guys, where, if you're $100 better, you're putting $5, maybe $10 on. It's a very speculative bet, but it's fun, and Super Bowl is about having fun.
One of the things I like about the 2 TD bet, at least on Robinhood, is you can bet him for 1 touchdown at plus 230, and then you can take him at 2 touchdowns at 13.5 to 1. And if he scores the first one, a lot of times Robinhood will actually let you sell your 2 TD bet back into the market, and you've like 3 or 4x your money on it. So that's another way you can go about it if you're using Robinhood markets.
Yeah, and just for people listening at home, the Robinhood markets are very similar and in many cases the same as the Kalshi markets. I'm sure you guys have seen the Kalshi advertisements everywhere.
There is an unders bet I like, which is Travion Henderson under 19.5 yards. I think Stevenson was on the field for 94% of snaps last week. They need him in the pass blocking scheme. He's an excellent pass blocker, and I think they just keep Stevenson back there. He's also made some really big plays, lots of 20-plus yard plays, both as a receiver and as a back. So I don't think Henderson's going to see a lot of time on the field unless the Patriots get a big lead. What do you think about that one? I know you've got some mixed feelings on it.
Well, I don't really have mixed feelings on it. I think that there's like two possible scripts as far as Travion Henderson goes. And I do think that the most likely script aligns with your bet. I do not mind the under on his base rushing yards. What was the yardage you had that at, Danny?
19.5.
19.5. I think that there's a very likely scenario that he has a few carries and he barely breaks the double-digit mark. However, there is another option. And once again, this is a big enough payout that it's like one of these fun options that TreVeyon Henderson is the type of guy that can bust one. We've seen him do it many times throughout the season. He is also the guy that will start getting carries if Mike Vrabel gets pissed at Ramondre Stevenson. And this has happened several times throughout the season because Ramondre does have a tendency to fumble the ball. And if Ramondre goes out there and fumbles the ball on the goal line in their opening drive, Vrabel is very, very likely to pull the plug on him at least for a quarter or so. And in that case, TreVeyon might become the primary back for a period of time. So if you want the under action, I do like your side of it. If you like the game script where TreVeyon gets some more action, you can get him at plus 525 for over 50 yards rushing. And this is something that he's hit, several times throughout the year. This is not a line that's out of his grasp. And I think that is good value.
No, he's broken off a couple 50-yard touchdown runs this year.
Yep.
I've also had a game where Stevenson has fumbled the ball. I think it was the Bills-Patriots first matchup where I had Stevenson and he fumbled and they just yanked him and ran Henderson the rest of the game. So I agree with that analysis. There's another guy we like on the ground in that game that we bet all year anytime we've had the opportunity to, because the quarterback for the Patriots likes to take off and run. What do you think about his line in this game?
So, Danny, you're setting me up very nicely for one of my favorite betting approaches for this weekend. Okay, and I have two of these type of bets, or series of bets, I should say, that are on the Patriots side. And the one you're alluding to is Drake May over rushing yards. So let me break this down. This is one of these escalator situations. So you have the base bet, 37.5 yards. I like the over there. That's essentially an even money bet that you get somewhere around minus 110. Okay. But then I want to take two steps up the ladder with it. So over 40 yards, only 3 yards more, plus 120. So it goes from minus 110 and it jumps to plus 120, which is with those 3 yards. And then at over 40, you can find it over 50, you can find it in the market at plus 205. So those are the three steps of the yardage escalator. 37.5 at minus 110, over 40 at plus 120, over 50 at plus 205. Now, in conjunction with those, I do like, if that's the escalator, we'll call these two bets the elevator, because these are going higher. There is a market for the highest rusher in the game, meaning the player that has the most rushing yards in the game. And because of the two defenses, and because of the limitation of the backs in some of the offenses, I do think that Drake May, maybe 1 out of every 3 or 4 times you run this game, may come out as the highest rusher in the game. And right now you can get that. If I think it's going to happen once every 4 games, you can get it at plus 670. And that right there, if my analysis of once every 4 games is correct, but you can get it at over 6-1, then that is the epitome of value. And then with a quarterback that's taken off and running in the scenarios and in the way that Drake May does, I don't mind a little sprinkle on Drake May touchdown at plus 285.
I can see both of those things happening, especially with Seattle applying pressure, kind of forcing him outside of the pocket or up the middle.
Absolutely.
And breaking off a few.
Absolutely. That is the most common scenario, but I also think that McDaniels will get deeper into his bag and you might see a few more designed runs, because McDaniels is no fool. He understands that he is up against an elite defense and an elite defensive play caller. So him showing a few looks with designed quarterback runs that we have not seen a ton of is something I would expect.
I may end up pairing Drake May over 40 yards with Rashid Shaheed over 40-plus receiving yards. Shaheed doesn't get a lot of work as a receiver, but the Patriots play a ton of man-to-man. They don't play a lot of zone. And I could see Shaheed getting more looks on the vertical deep ball from Darnold and it only takes one from him. Sometimes he'll just break that little, seam route up to the sideline, 40, 50 yards in one play. So that's going to be one of my long shots. I think I'll get probably around 5 or 6 to 1 on it.
Yeah, I like that. And, in that same vein, I do think that Christian Gonzalez is going to be following JSN around. And that just opens things up over the top for Shaheed even more.
Agreed. And I don't think you'll be able to stop him.
I do have one more, Danny, one more Patriots prop here. And it's sort of like
Let's hear it.
Sort of like the Drake May situation. This is a big escalator. Okay, so setting up the scene 2 weeks ago for our conference championship show, you're one of your best bets that did hit was over for Mac Hollins. And at that time, Mac Hollins has only been back for a week or two from injury. And so it was even a little more speculative, I think, last game. And you covered that easily and covered that bet and gave out a good winner. So I am going back to the Danny well with my base bet of the escalator of over 28.5 receiving yards. That's the even money bet. That's the minus 110 bet. And just as a little note, and when I say this, believe me, I'm not trying to jump on the trend here, but he has gone over that receiving yard total in 6 of his last 7 games. Moving on up the escalator, over 40 receiving yards gets you plus 190. He's gone over that number in the last 5 of his last 7 games. And then going a step beyond that, over 50 receiving yards, plus 285. He's done that in 4 of his last 7 games. So I really love the value there, especially considering his recent production when healthy. There's no reason to think with the way he played in the last game and the 2 weeks off that he's not healthy. And I think that Diggs is going to be getting a lot of attention, which opens up a guy like Hollins.
I think so too. Plus, he's a big target against a defense that closes in fast at 6'4". I could see him putting it up there, just some 50-50 balls, and those move those move you 20 yards at a time. So you only need 2 receptions for Mac Hollins to clear these lines.
Absolutely, and in fact, that's how it happened last week, Danny. That was one of the 4 out of the last 7 games that he went over the 50-yard mark. He had 51 yards on just 2 receptions. So a little bit like your Shaheed bet, he can break it. They do it a little differently, but the results can be the same.
Agreed. Before we get into who wins the MVP and some exotics, I saw a cool stat this morning. The Patriots and the Seahawks were both 60 to 1 to win the Super Bowl coming into this season. And just to put that in perspective, the Cardinals were 55 to 1. I don't think we've ever seen 2 60 to 1 teams meet in the Super Bowl. The last time the Patriots were 60 to 1 was the worst sports year of my life when the Tuck rule took place. And so
let it go, Danny.
Never going to let it go. But I will say this. I've become a big Tom Brady fan over the years. I just love excellence and champions. And so even though I hated him as a teenager, I have grown to respect him and what it takes to perform at that level. So I'm not a total Tom Brady hater, as some Raider fans are. Some will never forgive him. Because he did lie. It was a fumble.
Well, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So
yeah. Tell that to Belichick right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's have some fun before we get out of here. Give me your MVP value picks and wildest exotic bet. You're actually putting money on the Super Bowl. There are some weird exotics. I'm not betting on the Gatorade color or anything like that, but what do you like?
Yeah, so the MVP market, just like I was talking about the passing touchdown market, is a market that is going to be bet on heavily. And I already gave you a super long shot earlier, AJ Barner at 120 to 1. And that's just a sprinkle. That's just for you to have in your portfolio and hopefully spike a big winner. But let's talk about like the top of the market, where the MVP is likely going to go. So the 2 favorites are obviously, because historically, this is generally a quarterback award. So the top 2 favorites are Drake May and Sam Darnold. Now, because the Patriots are underdogs in the game, Drake May has the bigger odds. He is plus 200, so 2 to 1 on your money to win the MVP. However, the Patriots money line is plus 245. So what we have going on here, actually, I'm sorry, Danny, I said that in reverse, and I don't want to give people incorrect information. Drake May's MVP is plus 245. The Patriots money line is plus 200. Okay. So you're only getting 45 cents more on your dollar for gambling on the MVP, when the reality of the situation is the Patriots have to win the game in order for Drake May to win the MVP. But then there's all these different weird scenarios, right? Like if the Patriots cornerback has an interception and then he returns a touchdown on a kickoff, a guy like that could randomly win the MVP. And the fact that the Patriots won, which was step one to you winning your bet only, doesn't get you any money. That's why I really prefer, even though you're getting 45 cents less, taking the Patriots money line if you like the Patriots over Drake May. So to me, Drake May MVP is a no bet, no matter what. Okay. Now moving on to the other side, if you like a Seahawks player to bring home the MVP, there really are two options, and two good options at the top of the market. Sam Darnold plus 120, and Jackson Smith and Jigma at plus 550. Now, my personal preference is, if you want to dabble in this side of the market, that you take JSN at plus 5.5 to 1. And I'll tell you why. Over the last couple decades, the position that wins when a quarterback does not is what, Danny?
Wide receiver.
It's a wide receiver. And that's why my tight end bet with AJ Barner is so speculative, and the odds are so huge, because tight ends never win it. And I think actually, I don't have this in my notes, but I think it's possible a tight end has never won it. So that's just one example of people that are at the bottom of the board that really don't have a realistic chance, but JSN has a great chance. And let me give you the game script real quick. Sam Darnold has a median Sam Darnold game. He throws for 220 yards. He throws for 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Seahawks win the game. That is a pretty underwhelming MVP candidate. However, if 100 of those 220 yards went to JSN and the 1 touchdown went to JSN, and anybody that's followed football this year knows that those things are a distinct possibility, then in that scenario, JSN is likely to be the MVP. And when you're getting 5.5 to 1 on your money, I just think that that is the way to go. So Drake May is a no bet. Sam Darnold's probably a no bet. JSN is a yes bet for me. And then take some fun sprinkles down the board in the 70 to 1 to 120 to 1 range, just, for $1, $2, $3, $4, $5.
Okay, so no fun sprinkle on Kenneth Walker at 8 to 1. Let's say he comes out, does what he does last week: 19 carries, 62 yards, a touchdown, 4 receptions for 49 yards. And honestly, it looked like he kind of took over the game for him in the end.
Yeah, I just don't like the number, Danny. Like, I don't disagree with you that there is a pathway to Kenneth Walker MVP. I would not find that as shocking as me actually hitting my AJ Barner long shot, Yeah. So I would not find it shocking for Kenneth Walker to win. However, I think 8 to 1's a bad number. I mean, I would put that number almost double, 15, 16 to 1. Then
Even though he had 3 touchdowns the week before against the Niners?
Against the artist formerly known as the Niners, I mean, it's all relative. We're talking about the New England Patriots, who have a historically great rush defense and a historically great defensive-minded coach. And I'll tell you what, your little tidbit about both these teams being 60 to 1 or more before the season started, this is the premier example of how important head coaching is in the NFL. This is a direct relationship to the defensive mastermindery of these two guys and their culture building and all that stuff. Without these two head coaches, these two teams are not here.
Very true. It's really interesting, actually. You've got a first-year quarterback with a second-year coach, and you've got a second-year quarterback with a first-year coach. I don't think we've ever seen that before in a Super Bowl either.
Yeah. Well, and just the Sam Darnold story is just, it's kind of crazy. Like, Sam Darnold was failing on the Jets. He was determined not good enough to stay on the Jets because what? Because he was honest in a post-game conference about like seeing ghosts out there. Like, yeah, he probably shouldn't have said that. You're probably supposed to be the tough leader at all times when you're the quarterback. But, the guy's an honest guy, and, he's given an honest effort throughout the years, and it's cool to see where he is.
Yeah, but the Vikings wish they would have kept him.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would say that, like, this goes back to my best bet when we started the show, Danny. Me liking the under has a lot to do with the quarterback scenario you just mentioned, because the possibility of the lights being very bright for both of these guys, considering Drake May's inexperience and Sam Darnold's path to get here, I think that, like, you're looking at a lot of 3-and-outs, especially in the first quarter. Historically, even though Josh McDaniels is a great play caller, even with Tom Brady, they often were scoreless or at least no touchdown in the first quarter. So, if you want to extrapolate that and start betting like first quarter unders or halftime unders or anything like that, I would be a proponent of that as well.
Well, it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. We've covered sides, props, MVP. Any exotics for you?
Yeah, I got one that's very small. This is the game that the offensive coordinators and head coaches and, famously Nick Foles, they get into their bag, right? They show you a play you haven't seen. And we got a couple wide receivers and backup quarterbacks and different things, like wide receivers that used to be, or running backs that used to be quarterbacks in their young life in youth football, high school football, even some in college football. So at plus 210, you can get a non-quarterback to attempt a pass. He doesn't have to complete the pass. He doesn't have to complete it for a touchdown. He just has to throw it. And I do think that is good value at over 2-1. So that's my small exotic right there, Danny. And then okay. I got one for the music fans at home. For whatever reason, this is somewhat, there's been a lot of talk about Bad Bunny being the halftime performer, but I don't really pay attention to that stuff. I pay attention to the numbers, and I also used to be a little bit of a music guy in my younger life. And there's this real great violin intro, and with a very recognizable song that I think most people don't even know is a Bad Bunny song. And it is a song in which I could see him opening his show at. And lucky for us, this is the Super Bowl, so you can bet on anything. And there's a big market for what will be the first Bad Bunny song played in the halftime show. So the song that I like is a song called Monaco. You guys can go ahead and look it up on YouTube, and you guys will hear the intro. And if you close your eyes and picture it, I think you could really envision like a pretty hyped performance getting started with that. And you can get 13-1 on that. And I do have a little sprinkle on that because all the bets I'm having while the game going on is just not enough, Danny. I got to get some halftime action too.
Where did you get that one at? What market are you in for that one?
That is a Kalshi/Robin Hood bet.
Okay. I'll have to look that one up. Might be worth a sprinkle. I can see him starting off with a violinist. That makes sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And I bet you, Danny, when you listen to the song, you'll be like, oh, that's a great song. I didn't know that was a Bad Bunny song. So it's a recognizable song, and I think that like it would draw people into the show, and it just artistically makes sense in my head. But 13-1 always makes a lot of sense in my head.
Right on. Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Todd, for hosting and producing today. Where are you guys watching the game at?
I'll be watching the game probably in Manteca with some family.
Okay, very, very cool. I'm going to my dad's as well, so going to be spending some time with the family. And you, Andrew?
Well, hopefully the Wi-Fi on the plane is working, because on the first half, for the first half of the game, I will be on an airplane back to the Sacramento area.
And that's a huge party foul.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and this is sports lovers are listening only probably to this show. So I actually have the privilege of being a USA competitive swim coach, and I'm currently on a trip in Colorado Springs, Colorado, the hometown of the Olympic City. And I am at the Olympic Training Center with 21 kids from my team, and we are training and eating and sleeping where the athletes for the USA Olympic team do. And we did have one cool experience that I'll give you guys before we go. We were able to watch as a team in the lobby on the TV the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics while we ourselves are training
That's
at
cool.
the Olympic Training Center. So really cool experience for the kids, and honestly a really cool experience for me. And we got a big practice tonight. We're doing doubles, and we get one in the morning before we get on the plane. So it's a lot of fun, but also a lot of work.
Right on. No, that's really cool experience. All right. Well, I would be a terrible co-founder of Sircles, if I did not mention that we have our Start Engine campaign live still at startengine.com/circles. If you hit it big in the Super Bowl and you want to continue letting it ride, it is a high risk investment, but we're working hard to deliver valuable content, a valuable app, and trying to bring positivity to the world. So if you believe in what we're doing and you want to hear more of this, startengine.com/circles. You can make an investment there for as little as $250. Thank you everyone for listening. Andrew, Todd, really appreciate your time. Let's enjoy the Super Bowl.
Go Patriots.
Go Patriots.
Thanks, gentlemen. That
All
was
right,
fun.
guys. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
Take it easy.
Later.